So listen to this. Michael Burry just shorted Nebius. He also shorted Oracle the same day. And about 6 weeks ago, Jim Chanos went public with the same trade structured: long the chip makers and short the companies that rent them out. Now, if you follow Nebius on X social media, you already know the response. It's some version of, well, these guys are old, they don't understand the business, and they are about to get run over by a $15 billion backlog. Now, Nebius is the cleanest test case in the entire AI trade. It has the best contracts of any neocloud. It has NVIDIA as the shareholder. It has real revenues that are exploding. So if the bears are right about Nebius, they are right about the entire neocloud complex. CoreWeave, the Bitcoin miners that became data center developers, all of it. But if the bulls are right, then two of the most famous short sellers alive just walked into the wrong decade. There's no middle ground here. So let's look at both sides, but first let's start with the short thesis in 4 pillars. Pillar number 1, the landlord is worth more than the supplier. Nebius carries a trailing PE of around 82 times against a market value of about $42 billion. Now, compare that to NVIDIA, the company that designs the chips, owns the software mode, and sets the price of the input. That's the trade in one sentence. Chanos said it better than I can. You want to be long what the chips produce, not where the chips reside. And to be honest, his math is not dumb either. Even assuming a generous 10-year chip life and heroic profitability, he pencils these neocloud landlords out to 5, 6, maybe 8% pre-tax return on capital. Well, that's a utility. That's a regulated water company with a technology multiple. Pillar number 2, the depreciation question nobody wants to agree on. And here's the fact that should bother everyone. Amazon shortened its server life estimate from 6 years to 5 years. Meta stretched it to 5.5. CoreWeave sits at 6, Microsoft and Alphabet also at 6. So the largest technology companies on earth cannot agree on how long their GPUs will stay valuable. Chanos points out that rental rates on Hopper generation chips already fell 28% year over year as newer chips arrived. If the real economic life is 3 or 4 years instead of 6, depreciation has to go up dramatically and the reported profits are going to get destroyed. Now, pillar number 3, and this is Michael Burry's specific angle, the off-balance sheet pile. In his letter, Burry says he found companies where the uncommenced leases, leases that have not yet started, some running 11 years, total 18 times the company's entire annual sales. 18 times! And he says this isn't just one company, it's a category. In other words, these obligations get waved through today as evidence of future growth, but in his view, it is just a liability wearing a growth costume. Pillar number 4, circular financing. And this is the one that makes bears genuinely angry. NVIDIA just disclosed a 9.3 stake in Nebius. So about 22 million shares, most of it a warrant from a $2 billion investment. So the largest supplier of this single input, whose sales depend on that input being bought, is now one of the largest shareholders in the buyer. And the pattern isn't new. NVIDIA's involvement with neoclouds started as demand guarantees, a commitment to buy back unsold capacity if consumers didn't show up. Then it evolved into equity stakes, and in some cases, revenue share arrangements where the neocloud pays NVIDIA a cut of its revenues on top of the hardware sales. Bears look at this and see Lucent financing its own customers in 1999. Now stack pillar number 4 on top of one more thing, because this is the piece retail almost never gets told. Why do hyperscalers rent instead of build? Because NeoCloud agreements add nothing to their capex. The cost is recognized as an operating expense over the life of the contract. Meta's contracts with CoreWeave and Nebius run through 2031 and 2032, meaning the annual expense could average under $10 billion. Microsoft is guiding to roughly $190 billion of capex against about $200 billion of operating cash flow, consuming 95% of it. Its NeoCloud agreements expand that compute capacity while keeping that spend off of its cash flow statement. So the bear's conclusion is pretty brutal. The hyperscalers are offloading capex and NeoClouds are the ones absorbing it, which is exactly why their funding needs are so enormous. So Nebius in this framing isn't a technology company, it's a balance sheet Microsoft and Meta are renting out so they don't have to use their own. Now, let's take a look at the other side. And I want to be fair here because the real bull case for Nebius is a lot more sophisticated than the shorts give it credit for. First, the backlog isn't a projection. It's signed. Nebius is carrying around $44 billion of contractor customer backlog. That's anchored by a Meta deal worth up to $27 billion and a Microsoft contract worth north of $17 billion. And here's the detail that kills the vaporware revenue argument. Of the $9.3 billion in cash on the Q1 balance sheet, $2.3 billion is customer prepayments. Microsoft and Meta paid upfront for capacity, which is unusual in the cloud infrastructure contracting. So think about this. Think about what this means. Two of the largest, most sophisticated procurement organizations on the planet, with their own data centers, wired cash in advance to Nebius. Nebius is not a company begging for demand. Second, they're executing. Q1 2026 revenues $399 million, up 684% year over year. Adjusted EBITDA $132 million positive. And that part matters. The Chanos critique is aimed at loss-making enterprises borrowing against depreciating collateral. Nebius is EBITDA positive while growing 700%. That's a genuinely different animal from a Bitcoin miner that repainted its sign. Third, the vertical integration argument. This is the core of what bulls like Daniel Kos and the broader Nebius community will tell you the shorts are missing. You see, Nebius doesn't just rent GPUs. It writes its own software, designs its own hardware architecture, and it runs its own power. This gives them a structural power cost edge. And the short's own model concedes this implicitly because a 5 to 8% return on invested capital assumption is a commodity landlord assumption. If Nebius has a software layer that customers won't leave, the pricing power is different and the return on invested capital math breaks. Fourth, and this is the one that's the freshest, they already answered the CapEx objection. Nebius rolled out an asset-light partnership model. So instead of borrowing or issuing equity for every new megawatt, it licenses its software, hardware architecture, and customer relationships to partners who build, own, and finance the data centers themselves. So read that again with the bear case in your head. The entire short thesis is that these companies drown in capex against depreciating assets. The asset-light model is a direct attempt to hand the capex and the depreciation to somebody else and keep the software margins. Now, Chanos, to be fair, has already dismissed this. He's characterized the pivot as neoclouds abandoning the asset-heavy model that they used to brag about. But the bulls will say, that's not a retreat, that's adapting to exactly the criticism that you made. Fifth, the NVIDIA stake. NVIDIA filed a 13G, not a 13D. It's classified as a passive holding, explicitly not an attempt to control. And NVIDIA is contractually barred from exercising the warrant or selling before September 11, 2026. And the bulls say NVIDIA allocates its scarcest resource, chip supply, to partners that it believes will deploy them the best. And taking equity is how you align that. Therefore, calling it circular financing is like calling any strategic investment circular. Look, here's my honest read. And some of you are going to hate this. The bears are wrong about the timing, but not the logic. Chanos himself expects the reckoning between late 2026 and 2027. So that's not a next quarter call. And the Nebius stock has already given up roughly 18% in a month and sits about 30% below its 50-week high. So some of it is already priced in. So shorting a company with a $40 billion signed backlog, $9 billion in cash, and a positive EBITDA 1 week before its earnings on a valuation critique, that's a rich short, not a broken short. And those are two very different trades. But the bulls are wrong about what the backlog proves. You see, a backlog is a promise to pay for capacity that has yet to be built. The contracted backlog matters only if the infrastructure gets built on time. And if Meta and Microsoft don't renegotiate or reduce the capacity usage. And the financing gap is real. 20 to 25 billion in 2026 capex against roughly $7 billion of free cash flow creates a $10 to $15 billion hole, with dilution already running about 30% since the relisting. The short interest is sitting around 18%, so that's not a sleepy disagreement. And here's the thing that should make both camps uncomfortable. The bull case and the bear case are built from the same data. Same backlog, same capex, same cash. Two people reading the same set of numbers and reaching completely opposite conclusions. That means that the disagreement isn't about the facts, it's about what you think will happen to computing pricing 3 years out. And I'm sorry to tell you, but nobody is in disagreement knows the answer to this. Now, the number that settles it all lands on Wednesday, August 12th, before the open. Everybody's gonna watch revenues, but revenues are the least useful number here. So I would say ignore it. Watch these three in this order instead. Number one, GPU utilization rate. If Nebius is running full and still signing contracts, Chanos' landlord model is wrong because a full landlord has pricing power. However, if utilization slips while capacity comes online, the bears own this. 2. The depreciation schedule and any change to useful life. If management extends chip life to make margins look good, this is a tell. If they shorten it and still print positive EBITDA, that's the single most bullish thing that could happen on the call. And nobody will report it. 3. Asset-light adoption. How many partners actually signed up to build, own, and finance? If the number is 0 or 1, then maybe the bears are right. If the number is higher, then the entire capex objection weakens overnight. Now, let me leave you with the question that I can't answer, and I actually want you to answer. Michael Burry is short at 211. That's a real number, a real position, public on the record, and he can be measured against it. Chanos is short the landlords and long the chips. The Nebius community says both men are looking at a warehouse and missing a software company. Now, you tell me in the comments, Name a single line item in Wednesday's report that would make you switch sides. Thank you for watching.